Hello, demigods, and welcome to another episode breakdown of the Percy Jackson Show. Today, we're going to be breaking down episode 4, which is I Plunge to My Death. This is officially the last of the episodes that I got to see early. I got to see the first 4 episodes early. I'm very lucky that I got to see those episodes early. It's been really nice to be able to have these filmed and edited and ready for when the episodes drop. Moving forwards, I'm going to try to get these videos out on Wednesdays, but it's very possible that by the time I film and edit them, episode breakdowns and maybe even episode reactions will be coming up on Thursdays instead of Wednesdays. We'll just have to see. We'll have to play it by ear, but don't worry, they will still be coming, just not as fast. Oh, and also Happy New Year. It's now officially 2024, which is crazy. I'm filming this in 2023, but at the time of me posting this, it's 2024. Which is ridiculous. But enough about me. Let's talk about the 4th episode of Percy Jackson. So actually, the episode starts out with a flashback of Sally and Percy, baby Percy once again, and it's Sally teaching Percy how to swim. It's a very sweet scene, once again, building up the relationship between Percy and Sally. I love them so much. You can feel how stressed Sally is when it comes to Percy learning how to swim. She's like, Percy, one day, I might not be there for you, and you're gonna have to learn how to swim. If you don't know how to swim and you get into a situation where you need to swim and you can't, like, that stresses her out and she's freaking out a little bit. Sweet baby Percy is like, just breathe, mama. Enough. Enough out of them, okay? Baby Percy is just so precious. And I love Sally and Percy together. I can't wait for them to reunite. Then we go from the flashback with baby Percy straight into a chrono stream for baby Percy. So far, every chrono stream we've had has been for Walker's Percy, but this is for little Percy, and it's so sad. Leave Percy alone. He's just a baby, okay? Percy wakes up from his nightmare. Him and Annabeth and Grover are on this, like, train trying to get to California. Annabeth is awake, so Percy and her have a bit of a conversation. Percy asks about Thalia because she was the last forbidden child before Percy. Percy continues to sort of question the gods and question the relationship between the gods and the demigods. He's like, having to do all these things just for your parents to slightly acknowledge you doesn't make sense. People that are close to you, people who care about you, don't treat you that way. It's very interesting to see him go through that sort of process when it comes to accepting how the gods are. We get a little bit of Annabeth backstory. She talks about how as a daughter of Athena, she's technically a gift from Athena, how all of Athena's children are thoughts in her mind, and then she gifts them to the other parent. So for a while, Annabeth was a gift to her father until he married somebody and they had kids of their own. And her stepmom didn't see Annabeth as a gift. Annabeth is more of a nuisance. We get a nice little backstory for Annabeth, which is really sweet, but also really sad. Then a couple hours pass. The trio's awake and they're in like a different cart eating breakfast or whatever. There's a really funny moment between Percy and Annabeth that I love where Percy's like, can I ask a dumb question? And Annabeth's like, it's like you need me to make fun of you. Very funny, very Annabeth coded. But the trio is sitting and talking at this booth. Grover talks about Pan, which is really cool. They're kind of already setting up the fact that Grover's gonna go and search for Pan at the end of this season. We meet Echidna on this train. It's changed a little bit from the books. In the book, correct me if I'm wrong, they meet Echidna like in the St. Louis Arch. They're like all stuck in an elevator together. But instead, in the show, where they meet Echidna, they meet her on the train. And the lady that plays Echidna is good. In the same way that Medusa was really intimidating and scary, in the same way that Alecto was really intimidating, Echidna also has a very intimidating presence. Like, I am holding my breath when she's speaking because she's scary. She's like smiling way too much. It's eerie. And she's good. She's really good. I like the concept of them meeting Echidna on the train and then going to the St. Louis Arch to seek sanctuary. It's really fun getting to see Annabeth geek out over architecture because that's very accurate to her character in the book. When they're at the bottom of the arch, Annabeth and Percy have a nice little moment. Percy tries to make Annabeth laugh. He does this really weird, like, old lady British accent bit. Whatever. Percy's so funny. And then they have a small little heart-to-heart. Annabeth's like, yeah, this is a temple for my mother, but you could still maybe reach out to your dad while you're here. And Percy's like, I don't even want to do that anymore. I don't trust my dad. I don't really trust the gods. And then he says this really nice thing to Annabeth where he's like, you've done more for me in the past couple of days that my dad's done for me my entire life. So if I'm going to stick by somebody, if I'm going to trust somebody, it's going to be you. And then Annabeth is like, careful, I think you're about to call me your friend. Oh my goodness. Just such a great scene between the two of them. Before Percy can respond, though, he does basically faint because he got like stung by the Chimera while they were on the train. And Grover and Annabeth's solution to heal Percy is to stick him in the fountain right outside the arch and splash him with water. Doesn't work. Car crashes happen. Echidna starts walking towards them from the other side of the street, so they run into the arch and they start to go up the elevator. They set up this whole rule where they're like, oh, the St. Louis Arch is a sanctuary. It is a temple to Athena. It was built by one of her children a long time ago. So because it's a temple, monsters cannot enter it. So they're like, we're safe in here. Echidna can't come in. The Chimera can't come in. We're fine. However, when they're running away from Echidna, Echidna is able to go into the arch, and they're a little confused. But Echidna is able to speak to Annabeth like through her mind, and we find out that Athena allows Echidna and the Chimera into the arch because Percy sending Medusa's head to Mount Olympus was deemed as impertinence, and it offended Athena, it disrespected Athena, so because of that, Athena's not protecting her daughter and Percy and Grover. Ooh. Annabeth says, my impertinence wounded my mother's pride. What a line. The gods suck. They suck so bad. It's like crazy. But they get to the top. Percy is like depending on Grover to walk because Percy is not doing well. He looks like he's about dead. And so Annabeth's like, you guys go, I'll stay back. Someone's got to fight the Chimera. Someone's got to buy time. I'll do it. It's fine. Percy is like, wait, here, take this, and goes to hand her Riptide. But when Annabeth takes it, they switch places and Percy closes the door on them to sort of like sacrifice himself, I guess. Percy's whole reason for doing that is the water wasn't healing him. He's basically dying from that Chimera sting. He's not going to make it to Los Angeles anyways. So he's like, Annabeth and Grover, you guys need to keep going. You guys need to finish the quest. I'll stay back because I'm already not making it. Very hero of him, I might say. So then it's just Percy and Echidna and the Chimera at the top of the arch. And this scene is pretty well done. The Chimera looks fantastic in my opinion. The CGI looks really, really good. They fight a little. The fight's a little short, but that's fine. Echidna makes a hole in the floor of the arch. Percy's hanging off of it, and eventually he lets go and he falls. The shot of Percy falling off of the arch is really, really, really cool in my opinion. We get like a first-person perspective of him falling. We get a wide shot of it, and then we go back to his first person, and we're like spinning around with him. And as he's spinning, there's like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a tube of water out of the river comes up and snatches him up and sucks him into the river. A really cool way of making him fall into the river. I just always assumed, I guess, that he would fall and then he started falling on a diagonal, but the water actually came up and took him in. Percy wakes up underwater, he's stuck, his foot is stuck, and he's trying to pull it out. And then he starts to hear this voice from like this sort of sea creature that's sort of just like a beacon of light in the dirty, dusty river. And he hears a voice, and it turns out it's his mom's voice, just like it is in the book. And the flashback from the beginning of the episode comes full circle because we hear Sally's voice, and she's talking to Percy, and she says, just breathe. She also says, your father is here. Your father has always been here. It's so hard for him to stand back, to see you struggle. It's so hard for all of us. But he's here and he's so very proud of you. Trust him. Trust yourself. Just breathe. And then Percy breathes underwater. And that's the end of the episode. Now, okay. In my humble opinion, episode 4 is definitely the shortest episode. And I feel like it definitely could have been longer. The way that the episode ends is super cool, but I don't know. It just felt very, very short. I feel like maybe a couple of things maybe could have lasted a little longer. Maybe the fight could have lasted longer. Maybe the episode could have kept going and then ended with them getting to the diner where they're going to meet Ares, which is what's going to happen in the next episode because the next episode is called A God Buys Its Cheeseburgers. The episode could have ended with Ares, and that would have been like a really cool sort of cliffhanger, I guess. And then the next episode could have started immediately with them talking to Ares in the diner. This episode was great, and it was super fun, and it was really nice. And it was really nice to finally see the St. Louis Arch scene. I think they did it really well, and I liked it a lot. I just feel like this episode feels so significantly shorter than the other ones. Even when it comes to my review. Like, my review of the first 2 episodes Like the raw footage was like over an hour long. My review for episode 3, the raw footage was like 45 minutes long. This so far has only been 18 minutes of raw footage. And when I edit it, it'll be shorter than that. So I do wish maybe that they gave us a little bit more. I don't know. It just was really short. It was like a really, really short episode. But we do have a lot to look forward to next week's episode. We've got Aries coming into the show, and that's going to be super exciting. They're going to go to Waterland. They're going to ride the Tunnel of Love. They're going to get Aries' shield. It's going to be a whole big sequence. Them trying to get out of the Tunnel of Love, I think, is going to be a very interesting scene to watch. I think it's going to feel like one of the most action-packed scenes in the show so far, even though they're not fighting. They're kind of just like running. I'm very much looking forward to it. This episode didn't feel lackluster or like a letdown or anything. It just was short. And there's not too much to talk about. They definitely changed a lot of like small plot things of how this part worked in the books versus how it is in the show. I do think that the show did it in a little bit more of a cohesive way, meeting Echidna on the train, and then that's why they leave the train, and that's why they decide to go to the St. Louis Arch, because it's a temple for Athena, all that stuff. Tying back in Percy deciding to send Medusa's head to Mount Olympus, and how that affects the trio and how the gods felt about that. That's a really interesting tie-in. I think something this episode could have maybe benefited from was giving us a scene where they cut away from the trio and maybe cut back to Camp Half-Blood. Because we've seen it in episodes before where we as the audience get to witness a scene that is outside of Percy's perspective. And I don't know if they're going to do this at all in the show, but I do think it would be pretty interesting if we leave the trio for a few minutes and go back to Camp Half-Blood and see what's going on over there, maybe see what Luke's up to, what Chiron's up to, what Dionysus is up to, stuff like that. I just think this episode could have had maybe 1 or 2 more things in it. It would have made it a little bit longer, and it would have given us a little bit more of satisfaction for this week's episode. When you're releasing a show and you're doing it 1 episode every week, I feel like you need to have your episodes be equal and consistent in the amount of content that's in it. And when 1 episode is shorter than like the previous week's episode, it's always gonna feel like, oh, that's it? Wow, okay. But it's such a small thing to be like, oh, the episode felt really short. It's really not that big of a deal. I just wanted to share how I felt after I watched it. But overall, it was a good episode, and I really can't wait for next week. I feel like the next 4 episodes of the show are really, really, really gonna ramp it up, and I can't wait to see the next 4 episodes. I've been sitting on these 4 episodes for like, by the time I post this, I will have seen episode 4 like 3 weeks ago. So I've been sitting on this episode for a while, and I'm happy I could finally talk about it. But I am very much looking forward to getting a new episode next week alongside you guys. That's going to be very exciting for me. But that about does it for this episode breakdown. You can watch my reaction to this week's episode. I don't know if it's posted before or after this video, but make sure you stay tuned for that. Make sure you follow me on all my other social medias. I talk about Percy Jackson a lot everywhere, specifically Twitter. You can watch my reactions on TikTok as well as YouTube. If this is your first video here, make sure you subscribe. I do a lot of Percy Jackson content. We've got episode breakdowns every week, episode reactions every week. Like I said, after today, I'm going to be watching the episodes on the same day as you guys. So reactions and breakdowns might come a little bit later than they have been these past few weeks, but don't worry, they will still be there. I'm grinding my little heart out to get this Percy Jackson content out. Don't you worry. Comment down below your thoughts on the episode. Let me know if you thought that it was a little bit too short, or if it's just me. Let me know. I'm curious to see how you guys felt about the episode. But that about does it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.